Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome. I am going to go through this study guide. So here we go. Volume of a cylinder. So first thing we want to know is cylinder is volume equals pi r squared times height. Now 11 is the diameter, so we're going to take half of that, which is going to be 5.5 squared. And then the height is 8, and then times by pi. On the test, look for what it says as far as round to the nearest tenth or leave in terms of pi. Since this is 5.5 squared, we're probably not going to leave it in terms of pi. So just use your calculator. I have my calculator off screen, but so I'm going to do 5.5 squared times 8, which gives me 242. So that actually does end up being a whole number. So I can leave this in terms of pi, which I always like to leave in terms of pi if the front number, that first number, is a whole number. No units, so I'm just going to use units cubed. So boom. Find the volume of the cone. So the volume of a cone is the same as a cylinder. It's 1/3 pi r squared times height. The only difference is that 1/3. And what we see here is we don't have the radius, but this does form a right triangle. So I can use Pythagorean theorem. So that's 31 squared equals 22 squared minus my radius squared. So 31 squared, 961, 22 squared, 484, and then minus the r squared. So we're just going to subtract that 484 from 961. And so we end up with 477 equals, that's a plus by the way, I'm sorry. And then square root that to get rid of the square root. And you're going to get, I'm just going to leave it for now, but that radius is 477 square rooted, which is kind of convenient because we are then going to put in for the radius, which is squared, and then we multiply by the height, which is this number here, times 22, and pi, and 1/3. So that square root and the square are going to cancel each other out. So I actually get 477 times 22, and then divide that by 3. And I actually end up with, let me just do that one more time. I might have slipped my finger. Yep, that's right. So I got 3498. So that was 477 times 22 divided by 3, and then pi. And so we can leave it in terms of pi again. Getting all these great numbers. All right, volume of a prism. So on a prism, first we want to establish what's your base figure. And prisms that are rectangular are really easy. You can pick all sorts of ones, but I'm going to pick this top and this bottom. And so volume equals big B times H. So my base figure is 5 times 17. And then my height is the distance between those. So that's going to be times 12. Essentially, you multiply all three numbers together if it's a rectangular base. If it's a different base, then we have to be careful. So I got 1020, and this is in cubic centimeters. All right, so here's an example where I can't just multiply all the numbers together. I won't get the right answer because this is my base figure here and back here. So volume equals big B times H. It's a prism. The base area, I need to do base times height, which I don't have. I know that this is 1455, so I'm going to have to use Pythagorean theorem again. So Pythagorean theorem, we have 14 squared equals 5.5 squared plus, we'll call this x squared. And so 14 squared is 196, and I'm going to subtract that 5.5 squared. So I get 165.75 equals x squared. So I'm going to square root that, which means this is about 12 12.87. Since this is a pretty messy number, I don't want to leave it. I'm just going to round this to 12.87. But the base figure is a triangle, so we're going to actually do 1/2 of the base times the height, and then multiply by the height of the prism, which is 20 right there. Okay, so the base and the height of this prism, so the base is 5.5, so you're going to go 1/2 of 5.5 times the height, which is that 12.87, and then multiply it by that 20. So basically we just multiply all these numbers together, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I get about 35 or so for this. So I got 35.4 about, but then multiply that by 20, and I should get about 708.1, and that's, again, cubic units. Okay. All right, so find the volume of the prism. So we have to find the area of this base figure first. This is a octagon, and so we have to use that whole area equals apothem times perimeter. And so overall, it's big B times H. The H is the 18, so that's there. Now we have to find the big B. So this is where we go into this formula. A equals 1/2 apothem times perimeter. So perimeter is going to be really easy to find here. It's just 8 times 8, which is 64. So we have 64, but then we have to find that apothem. So if you recall, we're going to draw that little triangle right there. So we get that half side length of 4. The central angle is 360 divided by 8, which gives me 45, but then that also gets cut in half. So this is 22.5. So we're going to have to use SOHCAHTOA here. So I put googly eyes on the prize. And we have opposite, and I want to find adjacent. So this is going to be tan 22.5 equals, and this is opposite. So that's 4 over my apothem. Those switch spots. So my apothem equals 4 over tan 22.5. And so we're going to evaluate that. So we get 4 divided by about 9.65. So my apothem is 9.65. And so that's what I'm going to plug in right here for my apothem, which is not a lot of room to write that on this pen. But we're going to multiply by 64 and divide by 2. And I got about 309.02. That's the big B, 309.2 times 18, which is the height. And we get 5,562.3, and that's going to be cubic inches. All right, number 6. Okay, so again, we have a pyramid, so we're going to use a pyramid formula, which is volume equals 1/3 big B times H. Here our H is very simple, it's 10. Our base is an 8 by 8 square, so it's just 8 times 8, and then 1/3. So that's really easy, it's just 8 times 8 times 10 divided by 3, so we get 213.3 cubic inches. Ooh, nice to have a nice easy one after that. Last one, volume. This is 9 pointing to here. I'm assuming that's probably radius. So, or sorry, diameter. So radius is 4.5. And so we're just going to go ahead and plug that into the formula. Volume equals 4/3 pi 4.5 cubed. So 4.5 cubed. And then I just do times 4 divided by 3 in my calculator. So I get about 121.5 pi. We could leave it like that. I don't normally like having like a 0.5 with a pi. That's about as bad as I would leave it, but I'm going to multiply by 3.14, and I'll get my final answer is 381.5 cubic meters. Okay, question 8. How many questions are there? well, those ones, those are a little bit faster. A classroom globe has a volume of 288. What's the diameter? Okay, let's do this. Well, we just plugged that in for the volume formula. We have 288 pi equals the volume of a globe, which is a sphere. So we're going to get 4/3 pi r cubed. So first things first is the pi's are going to cancel out when I divide them. And then I can multiply by the reciprocal to cancel that out. So that's 288 times 3, then divided by 4. So I get 216 equals r cubed, and then I just cube root it. So there's a cube root function on your calculator that you can do pretty easily, but 216 cube root, which is a convenient cube root, is 6. So my radius is 6. It's asking for a diameter, so the diameter is going to be double that, or 12. If the volume of a cylinder is equal to this amount, and the height is 12, solve for it. So again, the volume formula of a cylinder is pi r squared times height. So it's giving the volume of 452 or 1452. Pi is in there. And then radius, we don't know. That's what it's asking us to solve, times 12. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 12. Or I could actually divide by 12 pi at the same time. And it kind of cancels those pieces out. Sometimes in your calculator, it's easier to do it in 2 steps, like divide by 12, which gives you 121, and then divide by 3.14. Oh, that has a pi in it. I apologize. So the pi just cancels. Yeah, we're solid. So I get 121 equals r squared, and then you just square root it, which that's 11. Sorry, did not see that there was a pi in the answer. That makes life much easier. Okay. Erica made 2 candles in the shape of a rectangular prism. The first candle is 12 centimeters, 3 long, 7 wide. The second is 5 centimeters higher. So I'm assuming this one is 17 high, but the same length and width, which was, 3 by 7? Okay. How much additional wax was needed to make the taller one? So we could do this a couple ways, but I really just want to know, what is the size of this piece? And all we have to do is to 5 by 7 by 3. Since the rectangular prism, you're just multiplying basically all the numbers together, because the base figure is 7 by 3, and then the height is 5. So pretty simple. 7 times 3 times 5 is 7 times 3 times 5 is 105 cubic centimeters. Alrighty. Find the volume of this figure. So we have to do 2. We have to do the cylinder. Oops, let's go on that. The cylinder, and then we have to do the cone. So they have the same base. So we're going to get, for the cylinder, pi, looks like 9 squared times 15. This one's going to be pi, 1/3 pi, 9 squared times 12. So I'm just going to leave it in terms of pi, 9 squared times 15. So that's 1215 pi plus, and this is going to be 9 squared times 12, but then divided by 3 because it's a cone, which is 324 pi. And since they're both in terms of pi, we can just add 324 and 1215 together. And we get 1539 pi. All right, so very similar thing that we're going to do here. I don't know why those numbers are up there. Okay. So similar thing we're going to do here. We're going to find the volume of these 2 pieces. We'll start with, so we have a prism and a pyramid. PYPR. Let's just do that. So pyramid is really, prism is really easy. The base figure is this 10 by 10. So big B is 10 times 10, and then the height is also 10. So it's literally just 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. The pyramid has the same base of 10, but a height of 13. So it's going to be volume equals 1/3 big B, which is going to be the 100 value, and height 13. And so that number, so 100 times 13 divided by 3 is about 433.3 repeating. Add those together and you get 14,333 repeating cubic meters. All right, black's been nice, but let's go to a different color. All right, cylinder A is similar to cylinder B. It has a radius of 8 and 15. If the surface area is 325, what's the surface area of B? So we have to use all of our ratios. They gave us 8 to 15. 8 to 15 is an A to B. You always want to see, can I reduce this? And you can't. This is fully reduced. So that's my A to B. If I square this, I'll get my A squared to B squared. So if I square these terms, that would be 64 over 15 squared is 225, I believe. There we go. We get A squared over B squared. So that's my surface area ratio it's asking for right there. 64 over 225. You'll notice surface area ratios are usually perfect squares, like 64 and 225. And then we want to set up a proportion using those. And remember, I used A on top because of 8. So this is A over B. And so when I set this equal, it says cylinder A is 312, so I'm going to put 312 on top and X. So we cross multiply. I get 64X equals 225 times 312, which is a large 70,200, and then divide by 64. And we have about 1,096 point, we'll call it 9. And that's in cubic inches. There we go. If the scale factor of that H, like I thought I deleted that, but anyways, if the scale factor of two similar solids is 4 to 9, what's the surface area ratio and the volume ratio? So this one's really easy. So scale factor, that's my A to B. So all I have to do is square that to get this value. So 4 squared is 16, 9 squared is 81. And then if I go back and I erase that, and then I cube it. So take those same values and cube it. I can get my value. And so 4 cubed is 64 over 9 cubed, which is 729. All right, nice. We're done. And then just some factoring. Okay, we have the surface areas. So we're going to do our surface areas together. So we got 125 over 245. That's my A to B. Sorry, A squared to B squared. So the first thing I want to do is say, what numbers could I reduce this to? So 125 divided by 245, what would that reduce to? And if you have a calculator that works well, then I would use that. But I think it's 5 is going to go into both of these. So I think if I reduce this first by dividing by 5, I think I'm going to get 25 over 49. So again, that's just reducing it. So I need to get to my A to B. So I'm going to square root this. So I get 5 over 7. And that gives me my A to B. And then I have to cube it to get my volume ratio. Okay, and so 5 cubed is 125. And 7 cubed is 343. So with my volume ratios, I can set up my volume proportion. We did A on top, B on the bottom, so it's giving me B, so I'm going to put 965 on the bottom and X on top. Then we just cross multiply this, so 125 times 965 is 120,625 equals, and then 343 x, then just divide by 343. So 120,625 divided by 343. So that's 351.7, we'll call it, cubic inches. And A should be smaller as it has a smaller surface area. All right, the last three, I think, are just factoring. So we'll just leave you to do those, and you can ask for help in class. So, yeah, ciao.